Hello and welcome to this free online conference of Conscious School. My name is Iris.
And I'm Kati.
Thank you so much for being there. The idea is that this will be a seminar in which we share about the approach and dive into some topics, and anyone who's connected can ask their questions. We have a live chat on YouTube that our dearest friend Zero is attending, and he's going to be sharing with us your questions, and so we can interact and we can share this moment together. The Conscious School is something, from my point of view, very new, something very different from anything that I've ever seen or met before. It is a school in which the main focus is on you. And it may seem weird because the main focus is on everyone. So it seems a bit strange. But for me, what happens to me when I'm in the class, I always feel like, hey, this guy's talking about me. This is my issue, my problem. This is what happens to me. And I feel this happens to many people, to most people. Does this happen to you?
Yes. Yeah.
And one aspect is that in a way we do all have similar programming, similar issues, because we grow up in a similar society. But it's also because the core of the method is that you are in the center, and so we always talk about things that are moving in you, and everybody who is in the seminar contributes to the energy that's moving and contributes to the topic that is being talked about. The main motto of the Conscious School is the art of remembering what the soul already knows. And so from my point of view, it's a bit different from what we're used to in this path of spirituality. It's that we kind of think that we're starting this path from the idea of trying to find out who we are, in a way to learn more about myself, to learn who I am. And for me, Conscious School is more about learning who I'm not, and seeing all the identifications that I have that are not what I really am, the ideas that I have about myself. And the idea is to really go deep into the beliefs that we carry around, the limitations that we have, the thought patterns, the behavior patterns, everything that we feel like is ruling our lives, basically. And so what I feel, what I get from Conscious School is basically a deep knowledge about myself, and every time more and more and more. It's like the first time I went to a school was like, I felt like there was a whole new world that I hadn't known anything about. It's like there was a whole new world, a whole new way of looking at the world, looking at reality, that I had never imagined to be possible. And what we're doing these days is that we usually have different blocks that have a certain topic, and we talk about that topic, and then always a lot of things are coming up that bring up the next topic for the next seminar. So we don't have a plan usually that goes for the whole year, but it's more like we have the different modules, and then in one of the modules we define the module for the topic for the next module. And last week, for example, we talked about failure. And I don't think we have the topic for next week yet. Kati, would you like to share what you felt either in your first conscious school class, or what do you think right now what conscious school is for you?
In my first conscious school, I thought, oh, great, there is a guy that is as crazy as me.
At least one.
Yeah. I felt like he was, like Alberto is someone who can really express things often in a way that is on the point, like on the spot. Where sometimes people talk around in circles and circles and you don't really know what they are talking about. I feel like Alberto, he has a really clear way of expressing things, and this is what I really like about his teachings. What is conscious school for me now? I'm actually not sure about that at the moment. It's really hard for me to answer this question right now. Okay. It's definitely about getting to know myself better. It's about language, about fine-tuning, in a sense, our way of expression, about playing with words and language to get to know different ways of expressing things in our communication. When we want to transmit a message, for example. Yeah, and about finding beliefs, lies that control our lives.
Yeah, for me that's a very deep point that you touched there, the belief that controls our lives. What I'd like to start with, or give as an example now, is one of the concepts that we work with in conscious school. It's a concept that basically that helps us to comprehend ourselves better in a way. And I'm going to put something on the screen here, on the whiteboard. I don't know what it's called in English. And so basically the idea is that we are... okay, it can't be shown. Well, then I will not show it. Imagine this. Imagine that when we are coming into this world, we come as innocent beings, as humans, completely pure and not knowing anything. We're born basically as an innocent being, and then things start to come to us from the outside. Like we learn what it means to be in the world. We learn that that I'm separate from the mother, because while I'm in the womb, I am the same as the mother. So I start to learn like the mother is something that is outside of me. And then I learned that there's something like emotions. I learned that there's a body. I learned that there's, with time, I learned that there's a certain way that I'm expected to behave. I learned that there's a certain a certain situation, that I have to react, and I start to learn how to behave. And everything that I learn about the world gives me a certain identification. For example, when there's a situation in school and my teacher tells me this is how you have to do this, if not, you will be punished. In that moment, I develop a certain way to deal with the situation in which I don't want to be punished, so I have a way to be the good student, for example. And then this can be one of my identifications. It is one of the mechanisms that I have to react in a certain situation. And depending on how I grow up, depending on whether or not I receive everything that I need as a child, if I'm treated with love, if I'm treated with respect, if I have a good home, if there's violence or not, if there's a stable mother and a father, if there's a lot of change. All of these little things make me form identifications and form my identity. And to be able to live with the potential that I carry inside, to live from this place of innocence, of this place of purity, I need to understand, I need to comprehend what are these identifications that I work with, what are these ideas that I have about myself that I'm using to react, to walk around in this world. And as long as I don't know anything about this, I'm basically just the effect, or I'm basically just the result of everything that happened in my life, of everything that I learned. As in comparison, that if I understand, I comprehend all these identifications, and I can start to decide whether or not to react in a certain way, whether or not to stay with a certain identification, I can free myself from these things. I can free myself from behavior patterns that I don't want to have. I can free myself from thought patterns. I can free myself from the way that I treat myself. Many of us treat ourselves in a way that is self-destructive, and sometimes we feel like we cannot get out of these patterns. And in conscious school, we learn the basis of these patterns, and we open the door to be able to transcend these patterns. And so the drawing that I wanted to make, that I want you to imagine now, would be that imagine that you have a core inside of you that is pure, that still has that innocence that you had when you came into this world. And then with time, what happens is that you build layers and layers and layers and layers of protective mechanisms that show you how to behave, but that limit you in a way that you can only behave that way in a certain situation if you don't start to disidentify from it. And that's one of the big words in conscious school: disidentification, deprogramming, the idea of letting go of things that have been written in our unconscious. I don't know if there are already any questions.
Yes, we have a question from Vincent. He says, I have depression for at least 15 years. How is your recommended treatment for this?
Thank you for the question, Vincent. There are different possibilities of what can be a treatment that could potentially support you in freeing yourself from this. a depression is oftentimes the result of the suppression of emotions. And in the conscious school, and also maybe in this case also in retreats that we do for in evolution with the use of entheogens, the one way to approach the situation would be to see what are these emotions that you are suppressing, what are these emotions that you are not able to deal with, or that most likely that you were not able to deal with in a certain situation as a child, for example. Oftentimes we perceive an experience in our childhood as a trauma, like a traumatic experience, and oftentimes we learn in that moment that emotions are dangerous, and so we have to protect ourselves, because in that moment that something happens, we were not able to deal with the situation. And so one approach that we work with would be to support you to go there, to look at what is there at the root of the depression, and to be able to transcend that emotion that causes you to distance yourself from the world, basically, because that is what oftentimes happens with the depression, that we are not able or willing to really connect with others, because we have learned that it's dangerous to connect with others. We have lost our image. I'm sorry for that. We're working on it. But I hope that answered your question, Vincent. If you want, you can contact us. You can. Ciro is going to put an email address and a telephone number in the chat. And so if you want to contact us in person, then we can talk about what are ways that we could support you, if you want. Maybe it's the battery. And we're back. Yeah, thank you for interacting. If there's no other question right now, what we could maybe do is to share about the baseline of the method, some of the premises. Mm-hmm. And what I would like to start with we could mention the first premise. We have in total 11 premises. These are sort of something like the pillars, we could say, of the conscious school. It's like the basic ideas that are the sustaining the school, or the approach of the school. And I don't think it makes sense to talk about all the 11, but I would like to mention 1 and 8. Mm-hmm. Because today we talked in the workshop, we talked about 8. Which is number 1? Do you remember?
Number 1 is that the method doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't work, the method, because nothing external really works. The thing that works is you, the human. Yeah. This is premise number 1.
That's premise number 1. And one of the baseline ideas behind is, as Katya already said, is that nothing external works. And the idea is that we can connect with the knowledge that we are the ones that have responsibility over our lives, that we are the ones that are able to change our lives, and that we stop looking at the outside and go inside. Mm-hmm. And this is, I feel, one of the things that is the biggest difference to the other methods for self-discovery, for for inner evolution, for self-help, we could even say, is that we are not saying that we are the ones helping you. We are not the ones that are healing you. And this is sometimes very confronting because when we're so used to people offering help that when we say we're not going to help you, some people are offended. And so this is the main point, that to not give the responsibility outside, which also means that that you have the chance to discover your own power of self-healing, your own potential. And this is the main thing that we dedicate ourselves to support people in connecting to their own potential, to free themselves from the limitations and to connect to the potential, to be able to live the life that you deserve, basically. Today we had this, and maybe I can do a little advertisement. We had a workshop, a very intense workshop for me. It's a workshop for leadership and mentorship, I guess. And it's a workshop that we do more or less once a month for 3 days, with a workshop in the morning and one in the afternoon. And the main idea, the main approach in this workshop is that we are learning how to use words consciously, how to transmit a message in a conscious way. And this is basically a workshop that goes with praxis and well, a more theoretical part, even though always everything to me feels practical because I feel always so involved in a way, even though only Alberto talks. And we're basically in these days, in the morning, we're giving presentations. One of the mentors in training are giving presentations, and then we're getting a feedback. And I think Kati's talk is online on YouTube also, I'm not sure.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
But some of them I think can be seen. You can look for it if you want. Today is the last workshop. It's still possible to join. Tonight is the last workshop with Alberto. And in this workshop, this time somehow, with all the things we talked about, one of the topics that came up was the necessity of women to start to love, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we're seeing the last weeks and months more and more, how most of us don't know what love is or how to love, and we're starting to let go of the ideas that we have about how love works and to start to connect to the mystery, basically, because if you don't know what it is, there's no way of knowing what you open yourself to. And for me, it's quite scary to see that. Like I realized the other day that I was in this idea how relationships are supposed to be, and I realized that what I thought was love is not love. And I let go of the relationship that I had because I realized that it wasn't love that connected us, but it wasn't only letting go of him, but at the same time I realized how I let go of every other partner that I had before, because I was relating to him from the same place that I always related to people. And so it's like I realized that the relationship that I had was not based on love, but on conditioning, on the false idea of love. That basically came up in this mentor workshop as well. And in this workshop today, in one of the presentations of Leila today, she mentioned the premise number 8. This is why I thought we could share it today as well in this conference. And the premise number 8 says basically something like, the method doesn't ask you to change anything. Because if you start from the place of wanting to change something, basically you're rejecting yourself. How does this premise make you feel, Kati?
It gives me a sense of freedom. It kind of takes out the pressure of having to change something and allows me just to be as I am, even with my patterns and stuff.
It's beautiful that you say freedom. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's a liberation, no? It's like the knowledge that everything is well, if nothing has to be changed, everything is perfect in a way. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's, maybe we should read these premises every day, every morning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's true. Then nothing needs to be changed. And this is also something that is very different from what we usually hear, because we talk a lot about self-improvement, bettering yourself. I don't even know which would be the keywords in this sense, but I feel like in this whole world of spirituality, we talk a lot about being the best version of yourself. But all of that is always based on the idea that there's something wrong about me. And the moment I reject myself, I cannot truly get to the root of what is really happening to me. When I reject myself and I cannot, I don't really allow myself to look at what's moving down there in that place, in that thing that I feel as negative, or a memory that I don't like, or something like that. A behavior pattern, even like what you said, my patterns, as long as we reject ourselves for the patterns that we have and for the ideas that we have, this rejection creates an energy of resistance, basically. And anything I reject, I cannot let go of. It's basically like a hook. It grabs you and it stays with you. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is of taking yourself as you are. Be as you are. Accept yourself for who you are, with all your conditionings, with all your negativity, with all your behavior patterns, and allow yourself to see what is there, to really see it. And for me, the interesting part is that miraculously, basically, once you really truly start to accept yourself, things do start to change. And things change from that behavior pattern, from that idea, from that thought that I had, into something more free, something more beautiful, something more pure. But for me, this really starts in the moment that I accept what there is and truly look at it, to be able to transcend it. Are there any more questions, Ciro?
Yes, it's from Ivan. He says that, what is the base of your method?
The base of the method?
I would say the base are these 11 premises that in the end kind of build the foundation, the base of trust. So you can, like a base of unconditional trust in yourself. You don't have to change anything, the method isn't working. What else is there? There is no guru, or there's... in the end, it all leads to unconditional trust.
Yeah, for me it would also be definitely trust, and freedom. And maybe responsibility, but it's part of freedom in a way. I think, there's nothing else to say. Trust and love. The idea that you are the one who can change your life. You are the one who can take charge and live the life that you deserve. And there's nothing to be done. There's nothing to do. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to do anything for it. Just observe and accept. And this is nothing that can be done. And for me, that was one of the hardest things to accept. Or I'm still struggling sometimes. That there's nothing that I can do. That there's, like, from the place of wanting to do something, it's already failing, because the part of me that wants to do something is the part of me that wants to get better, that wants to change, that rejects myself. And from that energy, I can't do anything. So the idea is really to look at yourself as you are. No matter if you're judging yourself, no matter whether you're in pain, whether you just lost something, whether you just made a big mistake. I'm not sure if it's you, Owen. I heard you mentioned that you lost some money. It's like, basically, anything that happens in your life is always a possibility for you to learn about yourself. To watch yourself while something is happening to you. And the idea is to get to the point of doing that without judging yourself, without the need to react from a place of lack, from a place of woundedness, from a place of pain, and to be able to observe and see what is there. See without judgment. See yourself. And once you start doing that, you will start to see that you're beautiful, that you're amazing, that you're wonderful, that you're a wonderful human being, that you deserve everything, and that you will receive everything once you realize that you deserve everything. And once you stop to judge yourself, once you stop to be in the right and wrong that you learned in your childhood, once you can free yourself and just be, everything else will magically appear in your life. Thank you for the question. Are there more questions, or should we talk about another premise? Do we have time? A little bit of time. I can continue? Okay, I'll continue. Beautiful. So let's talk about another premise. The second premise is that the method is not designed to help anyone. And I think we already talked a little bit about that, in the sense that if I say that I help you, I am basically invalidating you. I'm basically saying, well, you can't do it yourself, so I'm going to do it for you. Which means that you will never be independent. And so the moment we tell you, we're not going to help you, the method is not here to help you, we are opening the door that you can connect to your potential. And so that would be the second premise, that gives you the freedom, basically, to connect with your potential. Once you realize that nothing on the outside is actually gonna work or gonna do anything, which leads us back to the first premise. I think actually all of them can go back to the first one. No, it doesn't work. Yeah, it's not there to help you. Let's see. I have them all on my phone. The rest of the premises. And so the third one is that the method doesn't accept any disciples or students, because the idea is that you discover your own inner mastery and that you convert yourself into the leader of your own life. And for me, that is this connects beautifully to the leadership and mentor workshop that we're having at the moment. And I'm not sure if you were there when we started. I don't think you were in the first workshops. You were not there. When we started these workshops, we talked a lot about the fact that these leadership workshops and mentor workshops, they're not there for us to become leaders for other people, but for ourselves. And in the end, once I am the leader of my own life, and once I do only follow myself, I can also support other people and I can maybe be a leader. But the idea is to be with yourself, to not have anyone who's being followed, but to be your own master, basically. There's another question. Maybe to one of the premises, or maybe something else.
Yes, it's from Marta. She says, I hear you talking about the entheogenic word. What do you mean about that?
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the meaning of the word entheogen. Entheogens are usually substances that allow you to connect to a part of you that we usually don't connect with, to the divinity that we carry inside of us. And the word entheogen, the word entheos comes from God, so it's the connection to God. And the entheogenic word is basically describing the way that we share words in the conscious school. Mainly Alberto is able to do it that way, but some other people are also now learning how to do it, how to speak that way, is that only by using words we are connecting to the divinity. We are going into that deep part of ourselves that goes beyond of what we know. It's basically the idea that the way that we speak in the conscious school, the way that Alberto speaks, and nowadays also Michaela and Laura and Eric, I'm not sure if Farah as well. These are the mentors of the conscious school that are giving the seminars. Is that the idea is that we go deep into ourselves, similar to an experience with entheogens, to connect to our true essence. Thank you, Marta.
And there comes in again also the slogan of our school, which is remembering what the soul already knows. This is pretty much what it is about when it comes to the entheogenic world.
Ah, yeah, that's very true. I never made the connection. It is true. To uncover the layers that are covering the soul, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Kati. While there are no other questions right now, maybe I share one more premise and then we can call it a day. And so the fourth premise is that the method doesn't propose you to reach any goals, to fulfill any objectives, because if you do that, you would self-demand yourself, and you would lose the connection to your true essence. And this might be the premise that I'm least connected to, because I have a lot of self-demand, and zero as well. And the idea is that when you have goals, especially in your own process, it takes you out of the true connection to the self. It's the identification with a character, with I didn't share about characters yet, but the idea is that there's a part of me that is self-demanding, but it's not the true essence. I could call it a part of my ego, a part of identification. And when I'm in this idea of wanting to reach something, wanting to go somewhere, basically I'm losing the connection to the truth, to the real me, to what's below or beyond me in a way. And so the idea is to let go of any self-demand, and especially in the evolution. And this is something that I find sometimes complicated still, to not have this idea, I should already be further, I should already be more evolved, I shouldn't be jealous or whatever, like I shouldn't be in a certain way. And the moment I feel that, the moment I judge myself from the place of self-demand, I'm out of it, I'm not connected anymore. And that's, for me, the basis of this premise. How do you feel about that one? I love the surprise questions. You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I actually just had another thought going on. So, which premise were we talking about?
Number 4.
Which was?
It's the one that says that it doesn't urge you to fulfill any objectives or any goals.
No goal. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's dedicated to put out the pressure that you put onto yourself in your process. And yeah, that it's about surrendering rather to the process than achieving some special goal that is created by the mind. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you want to share the thought that you had while you were not listening?
No.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, are there any more questions, or do we close here? No more questions. Zero also entered into a process. Well, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Owen, Marta, and Vincent, for your questions. If you have any more questions, please contact us through the email address and phone number that Zero has left, and we will get in touch with you. I hope we'll see you again soon. We always have these online seminars Wednesdays at 7 o'clock in the evening, and also Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the morning. There's always a Conscious School seminar live, and you can see all the videos in English in the YouTube channel, so you can also watch the ones that you haven't been able to see. Well, thank you out there. Thank you in here. Thank you, Ciro, Christian, and Giovanni, who's not watching. Giovanni, thank you as well for being here. Thank you, Kati. And see you next time. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Ciao. Ah, está bien. Ah, gracias.
Sí, parece.
Bueno.
Imaginando, pero nada.